Where did you get that kite?
I found it in the park. She kept it from blowing away.
Mary?
Poppins! Close your mouth, please, Michael. We are still not a codfish. Jane Banks. Still rather inclined to giggle, I see.
Good heavens. It really is you.
You seem hardly to have aged at all.
Really? How incredibly rude. One never discusses a woman's age, Michael. Would have hoped I taught you better.
I'm sorry, I didn't...
You came back. I thought we'd never see you again.
It is wonderful to see you.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And that is a clip from Mary Poppins Returns, and I'm delighted to say that Emily Blunt, is with us. Hello, Emily. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. It's very exciting to have you on the show again.
Thank you.
So I'm aware that it's not my job on this program to do the reviews because that's what Mark does. But I'm just going to say at the start of the show, because you might as well just get it out there, that I thought this was practically perfect in every way.
Well, that's so nice. Thank you.
And I'm sure many people have said that to you.
No, but I feel that it's genuine coming from you because you said you're such a diehard fan of the original.
It was the first film that I ever saw.
Oh boy, pressure.
And so I realised as I sat down and the room went dark that I actually was a little bit on edge. What if it's not up to scratch? And I remember the last time I interviewed you was for Girl on a Train. And
Which is just like this.
And I said to you, that's right. I said, so it's Mary Poppins next. And you sort of flinched. It was that kind of, yes, I know, it was that thing which is coming down the track.
Yes, that idea that I might be meddling with a sort of golden temple in people's lives. And so, yes, I did feel apprehensive. And I'm sure that was the early days of me starting to craft my own version of her, so I probably hadn't figured it out.
How did the approach happen in the first place?
With how did I get the part?
Yeah.
Well, Rob Marshall and I had worked on Into the Woods and absolutely loved working with him and really wanted to do something else with him, and luckily he felt the same, and he called me about this. I really had no idea it would be Mary Poppins. I didn't know what he was going to say, but his phone call had such a sort of charged energy behind it that I knew it must be something quite major. But I was stunned when he said Mary Poppins, because you are instantly just flooded with iconic and nostalgic memories of her. And then I think what happened afterward is probably what a lot of people felt, similar to what you felt, is that I was met with gasps as soon as you mention the name Mary Poppins. And those gasps can only make you feel a bit nervous, you know.
Because it was such a long time ago. So are we describing it as a sequel? Is that the...
Well, I think it is. It's a sequel we've waited 54 years for. I don't know if maybe you can't sort of... It's not that sort of like, ooh, let's see what happens next sort of film. I mean, I think it's just the next chapter.
You mentioned the director, Rob Marshall. Was he the key to you saying yes?
Absolutely.
Because you knew how he worked and you liked how he worked.
Yes.
And you've described him as having a wonderful ceremonial approach to filmmaking. Could you explain what that means and why that led to you saying yes?
Honestly, he is the most classy, charismatic man, but also just the most exquisite director, this completely meticulous approach to making and crafting this film, which is really an impossible feat, what he took on. I mean, talk about a sort of iconic boulder to have to try and move aside to create new space for yourself in making the sequel. And I think he just approached it fearlessly and with great love. And the reason I say he approaches every day with a sense of ceremony is really that he wants to make it very special for you and for the whole cast. And for example, the first time we saw the Cherry Tree Lane set, he had music playing in the background so that when we walked on set, we felt the spirit of that first film. I mean, he truly just made it a completely unique, special experience every day.
What did you think when you saw Cherry Tree Lane for the first time?
It's gorgeous and exquisite and surreal, really, to walk down it. And I remember when he showed Dick Van Dyke Cherry Tree Lane, Dick was like almost crying, it's just so surreal for him.
I think there will be quite a few people who go and see this and find it very emotional for a number of reasons, not just the fact that it's such an iconic movie, and for me it was the first film, but there are moments in the film which are really, really powerful. And I think, handkerchiefs might be appropriate, don't you think?
Yes, I've sort of been amazed by even my most cynical friends who go and see the film and they say to me, I went in there sort of not liking musicals and not really caring about Mary Poppins. He said, but when I had one friend who said, but when I saw you coming out of the clouds, I started to sob. It's like, it's kind of wonderful. And maybe we don't realize how much we need her to come back until she comes back.
That's not a line anyone else is going to be saying to you anytime soon. So preparing for Poppins, once you'd said yes, do you read the books? Do you go back and watch Julie Andrews? Or
Well, I have a sort of memory of Mary Poppins from a child that's sort of seared into my memory, but it was sort of more abstract, the idea of her and the details of what Julie Andrews did so beautifully. So I wanted to try and keep it as abstract as possible so that I could dive into the books and not watch the original again before shooting. And so I just read the books and did find them incredibly evocative, really a huge springboard for me to discover my own version of her. I mean, she's quite different in the book. She's really batty and eccentric and terribly rude. And so she made me laugh so much. She's very, very funny.
So what did you take any of that with? Because you are imperious,
sure,
aren't you? And you are vain.
Yes.
Because you look in the mirror
all the time.
A lot. And you're very unsentimental. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Well, I would say on the exterior, but I think that's what I fell in love with the character, is that duality that she has, that the stern buttoned up coat and how she holds everybody at arm's length. But yet she is someone of great depth and great power and great empathy, because she comes into your life and she recognizes what you need and she gives it to you. But through a sort of fantasia and this voyage of self-discovery that she makes all about you, because she doesn't take any credit for what she does. She actually pretends it doesn't even happen. And I've always felt about her that I think she probably comes in and behaves in this offhand, stern way because she will inevitably have to leave.
Can you explain, obviously I don't want to spoil the story too much for people who are going to just go and enjoy it for the first time, but why are you needed? Why does Mary Poppins return?
Well, I think it was quite important for Rob to find a very good reason for her to come back, because it seems like she did quite a good job in the first film, so why is she coming back? And I think she comes back for Michael Banks, who was the child in the original. Now he's a grown-up. It's during the Great Depression, which is when the books were actually set. And certainly a more profound backdrop in this film, and everything's crumbling apart for Michael. He has 3 children, he's lost his wife, and he doesn't really know how to put one foot in front of the other anymore. And things are quite bleak and melancholy, and we really need her to come back. And yes, she comes back and injects wonder into the children's lives, but I think the film is really about Michael.
And we need to mention what seems to be, to me, the inspired casting of Lin-Manuel Miranda as Jack, who I think in your story has been the apprentice to Bert.
Yes, correct.
Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
And he's the first character that we see, and he's inspired. I don't know about his accent, because it seems to me another homage to the original film, that his London accent is, again, not very good. But that seems to me part of the thrill of the film. What was singing and dancing and acting with Lin?
Well, he's just fabulous. I actually do really like his accent. I thought he did such a good job, because it's a rather impossible task. But as Dick Van Dyke even said to Lynn, don't worry, I've set the bar very low for you.
Well, Dick Van Dyke always said that no one told him that it was a bad accent. But, he was working with all these people and no one said that doesn't work. So he just carried on. So I kind of interpret Lynn's accent as part of the tradition of Poppins.
Well, my mum was funny. She said, I think we all look back on Dick Van Dyke's accent with great fondness. I was like, so true.
That was almost Poppins saying that.
It was. You can see who I based her on. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, dancing, singing with Lynn. I mean, he's such a joy because he's so effervescent and positive and bubbly, never really has anything bad to say about anyone. And he really represents Jack's character, who is hopeful and walks into every day with great hope. He's just fab. I love him.
Yeah. The music is obviously going to be hard to discuss here because we're not illustrating it. But everyone will wonder, these songs are so iconic that you are following on from.
Yeah.
How on earth are you going to top that? Now, I've only heard the songs the once, when I sat down and watched the film. But again, it seems to me a complete triumph because the songs are part of the Poppins story and they reflect the originals. So in the original film, the step in time. So there's a version of that. The supercalifragilistic.
Yes.
There's a version of that, and all the way through the nods and the winks to the original are there, so that it's almost as though you have done the original songs, even though we haven't heard them. I mean,
sure.
When you sat down and saw it all put together for the first time, what did you think?
Oh, I was just completely spellbound by it. I mean, it was rather extraordinary because we've all worked so hard on it. Obviously, you're so immersed in it. And then suddenly it's looking right back at you and it's fully formed. And I remember watching it and not crying, and then it ended and I started to sort of scream cry, like that embarrassing crying, because it was just so stunning. I was just so wowed by the whole thing and still am. And I do think the songs are extraordinary, and that's an impossible feat for Mark Shaiman and Scott Whitman to take on, because even people who haven't really seen Mary Poppins, they still know the songs. It's somehow by osmosis just sort of a part of your childhood. And I think our songs are gorgeous and iconic in their own right, you know.
We should mention the children, because Mary Poppins is there for the children, although obviously she has a wider brief.
Sure.
And you spend most of your time with them.
I did. I was inundated with children. This is what happens when you play Mary Poppins. You work with children all day. But ours were, thank God, you know, completely mad, but brilliant.
And do you find that you have a maternal role with them anyway, just because of your stage roles here?
Yeah, I really love children. I love being around them, and I loved our kids on this, and they were terribly sweet and professional and mad all at the same time. I mean, that little one who plays Georgie is completely off his rocker and but brilliant. You just put the camera on him and he's just so spontaneous. He's never worked on a film before and you just can't take your eyes off him.
Do your children get to see this? Have they seen it?
My oldest one has seen it. My 2-year-old has the attention span of a fly, so she's managed to get through the trailer, but my almost 5-year-old has absolutely loved
Hazel,
it.
so
Hazel,
what did she say?
She just thinks it's incredible. I mean, she wants to talk about it all the time and ask me about it in bits and, you know, what was this bit like?
Can you tidy my room, please, Mum, just by doing that thing that you do?
I would like to.
It seems to me that Mary Poppins has a code, and again, without any spoilers, that there are things in this film for the family to sort and for Michael Banks to sort. And a lot of people would think, why doesn't Mary Poppins just fix that? Because isn't she magical? And yet I don't know if there's a self-imposed code or whether, that there are some things that she will not get involved with.
Well, I just think that because she has this enigmatic master plan, she's the queen of planting seeds, because then she's not coming in with a sort of finger-wagging lecture. This is how you should live your life. This is how you should be. It has to be a voyage of self-discovery for you, because that's how we really learn things. You cannot want more for someone than they want for themselves ever. And I think she understands that in quite a big way. So that's why they have to go through the process. They have to digest it themselves.
2018's been pretty good.
Yes.
For you. And I can't finish the interview without mentioning A Quiet Place, which I think is my favourite film of the year.
Oh my goodness, thank you for saying that.
Which is just genuinely astonishing.
It's really astonishing. I appreciate you saying that.
So do we have anything in maybe you're going to take 2019 off. But anything, what do we see you in after Poppins? Is it possible even to think about life after Poppins?
Well, I did shoot a film this summer called The Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson, which is like this huge adventure comedy like Indiana Jones. And I'd always wanted to do a film like that in the ilk of African Queen and Romancing the Stone. It's absolutely fab. So I did that, but then we're going to do a sequel to your favourite film of the year.
There's more of A Quiet Place?
There's more quiet.
That is very,
you
very
literally
exciting.
just looked at me and you
didn't see
couldn't
that
contain your
stuff.
excitement.
That's very exciting. And might Poppins return again?
I would hope so. I would love it. I probably will need some medicinal salve after Quiet Place. So.
Yeah. Emily Blunt, thank you so much, and happy Christmas, and I think it probably will be.
Well, thank you very much to you too.